Imagine a stranger knocks on your door. You don't know him. He's not a neighbor, not a friend of a friend, not anyone you've ever met. He points at your overgrown yard, the one you've been too exhausted, too sick, or too broke to deal with.
How you doing?
Yeah.
I was wondering if you'd like me to go ahead and do a makeover on your yard.
And tells you he's going to take care of it, for free. You think it's a scam, you almost close the door. But something makes you listen.
You seem like you're a little hesitant.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah,
Yes.
You seem skeptical.
Yes. If
No.
it sounds too good to be true, it probably.
And an hour later, your lawn looks completely different. And then, before he leaves, he hands you cash, enough to cover your rent for the month. No strings, no catch, no bill coming later.
I just don't know how to thank you guys. You guys have been so wonderful.
This isn't a one-time act of charity. This is Tuesday for Bladez. And here's what makes this story genuinely interesting. It's not funded by a millionaire benefactor, a nonprofit, or a GoFundMe that went viral. It's funded by YouTube, by a lawnmower, a GoPro, and an algorithm. And the way it all came together is a story that nobody saw coming, least of all the man at the center of it. Bladez grew up in the United States with a love for simple things: fishing, the outdoors, working with his hands. He wasn't chasing fame or building towards some grand plan. He was just a guy who knew how to cut grass, and eventually turned that into his own lawn care business in Florida, which he called Grassmaster Outdoors. The work was physical, it was honest, and it was his. He built up a small roster of paying clients, showed up early, and did the job right. That was the whole business model. But somewhere along the way, he picked up a GoPro, and on May 8, 2020, he uploaded his very first YouTube video. He introduced himself, explained what Grassmaster Outdoors was about, and talked about why he wanted to document his work.
Saying forever that I'm gonna start a YouTube channel, but every video I do, I never finish, or I start.
The plan was straightforward: share what he was doing, maybe inspire someone else thinking about getting into the business. His tagline said it all: be the difference. That first video flopped, so did the next few. By any normal measure, the channel was going nowhere. But Al kept showing up, kept recording, kept posting. He wasn't going viral, he wasn't trending, he was just a guy with a camera and a mower, grinding it out. What he didn't know yet was that one conversation was about to change everything. A YouTuber named Kevin, known online as the lawn care juggernaut, stumbled across Al's early videos and noticed something. Al wasn't flashy, wasn't performing, wasn't trying too hard. There was a genuineness to the way he talked and worked that didn't feel manufactured. Kevin reached out and made a suggestion: stop filming regular lawn jobs and start filming lawn makeovers. Go find the worst, most overgrown properties in town and transform them on camera. At the time, Kevin was one of the only creators doing that kind of content. He saw the potential in Al immediately, and that one conversation sent Al's channel in an entirely new direction. Al took the advice. He went looking for tall grass, really tall grass, the kind that swallows a mower whole if you're not careful, the kind that turns a simple yard into a jungle in the span of a few neglected months. And he started filming every second of it. Almost immediately, something shifted. The views started climbing. The satisfying, oddly hypnotic nature of watching a disaster of a lawn get completely transformed was pulling people in. The format was simple, the results were undeniable, and Al's natural personality kept viewers watching long after the grass was cut. It turns out people love watching chaos get resolved. They love a before and after, and Al was delivering exactly that, sometimes in real time, sometimes in time-lapse edits that compressed hours of work into something closer to a mini documentary. The channel wasn't just growing, it was accelerating. But something more interesting was happening underneath the view counts. As Al kept finding properties to film, he started noticing a pattern. The lawns that got the most attention weren't just the most overgrown, they were the ones attached to a real story. An elderly woman who'd been in and out of the hospital for months, a family barely holding things together after a job loss, a veteran struggling alone in a house that had slowly gotten away from him. Those videos weren't just satisfying to watch, they hit differently. Viewers weren't just entertained, they were moved, and the numbers told the whole story. One video with a genuine difficult human situation behind it would pull 10 times the views of a standard overgrown lot transformation. Al saw it clearly. This wasn't just about tall grass. It never really had been, so the channel evolved. Al began actively seeking out people who needed the help most, not just the most dramatic lawn, but the most deserving homeowner, people who were physically unable to maintain their own property, people going through something hard, people who had fallen behind on life through no real fault of their own. He set aside time specifically for free jobs, no paying customer, no invoice, just a crew showing up and doing the work as a gift. And then the giving started to grow beyond the lawn itself. At some point, Al Bladez began adding something to the end of these transformations that genuinely surprised people. After the mowing was done, after the edging was finished, after the yard looked completely different from what it had been that morning, he'd hand the homeowner cash, not a token amount, enough to cover a month's rent or mortgage payment. Just like that, a full day's worth of professional landscaping work, which by any real estimate can run a couple $1,000s for a crew, plus financial relief on top of it. Think about what that actually means for someone living paycheck to paycheck. One phone call from a stranger, and suddenly a month's worth of financial pressure evaporates. The yard is back, the house looks cared for again, and for the first time in a while, there's a little breathing room. People watching at home couldn't believe it. Comments filled up with a mix of disbelief and emotion. Some viewers were skeptical. They wanted to know how this was possible. How does a lawnmower guy fund this? Where's the money coming from? What's the catch? The answer was simpler than anyone expected. YouTube was paying for it. All of it. Here's the part of the story that most people watching those emotional lawn transformation videos never stop to think about. Long-form YouTube videos are machines for generating ad revenue. A 90-minute time-lapse of a yard transformation isn't just satisfying to watch. From a monetization standpoint, it's a gift. More runtime means more ad breaks. More ad breaks means more revenue per view. And Al's videos were consistently pulling in large view counts on content that ran anywhere from 30 minutes to well over an hour. On top of that, mower companies noticed high-end commercial mowers are designed to handle exactly the kind of abuse Al was putting them through. Impossibly dense, knee-high grass that would choke a standard residential machine. Sponsoring Al's channel wasn't just good marketing, it was a live demonstration. Every video was basically a stress test with an audience of hundreds of thousands of people watching. Long videos are particularly lucrative because more ads can play, and a full crew landscaping job can easily run a couple $1,000s for a day's work, making what Al gives away genuinely substantial. And he was doing it regularly, using the revenue the content itself generated to fund the next transformation. The business model wasn't complicated, it was just invisible to most viewers. YouTube audiences were, without realizing it, funding every free lawn and every rent payment by simply pressing play. By 2025, the numbers told a remarkable story. Al Bladez's main channel had grown to over 1.7 million subscribers and 250 million views across more than 220 videos, with an estimated net worth of around $1.3 million. He was operating 3 separate YouTube channels, with his second channel, Life with Al Bladez, documenting behind-the-scenes content, and his Instagram following sitting at over 45,000. His brother-in-law had become a regular presence in the videos, the two of them working jobs together and building what had become something closer to a production operation than a solo side project. Al's wife, Shiloh, and their 2 kids were part of the life he'd built around all of this, a family man running a giving machine out of the back of a truck in Florida. He documented everything. In October of 2023, he even spent an entire month without a cell phone, no texts, no calls, nothing, and logged the whole experience daily on his second channel. Whether it was a personal experiment or a statement, it showed a willingness to be open in ways most creators aren't. He wasn't just filming lawns, he was sharing a life, and the people he was helping were sharing theirs too. What makes these videos actually work, beyond the satisfying visuals and the emotional stories, is something harder to fake: authenticity. Al isn't a trained filmmaker. He's not a media personality who pivoted to charity content because the algorithm rewarded it. He was a lawn guy first. The camera came second. The giving came out of a genuine impulse that predated any viral success. The homes he visits aren't curated for maximum emotional impact, at least not in a way that feels exploitative. The people are real, their situations are real. When an elderly homeowner opens the door confused about why a stranger is offering to cut their grass for free, that confusion isn't scripted. When someone cries because a bill they've been terrified about for weeks just got handled by a guy they'd never met before that morning, that's not a performance. That's what 250 million people have been watching. Not just a lawn getting cut, not just a satisfying before and after, something much more basic. A person being kind to another person, and doing it over and over again without making it complicated. The comment sections on Al's videos are unlike almost anything else on the platform. People share their own stories. They talk about relatives who are struggling. They ask how they can nominate someone they know. They thank him in the way you'd thank someone who actually did something for you, not just entertained you. The channel built a community around something that's genuinely rare online, straightforward human goodness, filmed in a Florida backyard. Here's what Bladez actually proved, and it's worth sitting with for a second. There's an assumption baked into how most people think about YouTube success, that you need drama, controversy, shock value, or some kind of spectacle to build a massive audience. The platform rewards extremes, the thinking goes. Outrage performs, chaos gets clicks. And there's enough evidence for that idea that people repeat it without questioning it. But Bladez built a channel with over 250 million views and a 7-figure operation by doing the opposite of all of that. He found the worst-looking lawns in his city. He fixed them. He helped the people living there, and he filmed it on a GoPro. That's it. No villain, no controversy, no beef with another creator. Just work and what the work made possible. His entire channel philosophy comes down to one line: be the difference. What's striking is that it's not just a catchphrase. For hundreds of homeowners across Florida and beyond, it was exactly what happened. A random Tuesday, a stranger with a mower, and a month's worth of pressure lifted off their shoulders. The lawnmower was never really the point, it was just the tool he had. What Bladez actually built was a system that turns attention into action, where the act of watching is the act of giving, and where a guy who just wanted to document his work ended up changing people's lives because enough strangers found something worth watching in it. The story nobody expected wasn't a scandal, it wasn't a fall from grace or a secret finally exposed. It was simpler and honestly harder to believe. A man who decided to be generous, figured out how to make it sustainable, and then just never stopped. And somewhere in Florida right now, there's an overgrown yard that doesn't know yet what's coming. Bladez started with nothing more than a mower, a GoPro, and a willingness to show up. No viral strategy, no carefully engineered brand, no roadmap, just a guy in Florida who decided to document his work and see what happened. What happened was something nobody could have predicted. A lawn care channel became a giving machine. A GoPro became a fundraising tool. And a simple idea, be the difference, turned into hundreds of families getting real, tangible help on days they needed it most. The numbers are impressive. Over 1.7 million subscribers, 250 million views, an estimated 7-figure net worth built entirely from ad revenue and sponsorships. But strip all of that away and the core of what Al built is almost embarrassingly simple. He found people who needed help. He helped them, he filmed it, and then he used the money that generated to go do it again. There's a lesson buried in that cycle that goes way beyond lawn care or YouTube strategy. Most people assume generosity is something you do after you become successful, a luxury you earn the right to once the bills are handled and the future feels secure. Bladez flipped that entirely. The giving wasn't a reward for the success. The giving was the success. It was the engine, not the exhaust. And that's the story nobody expected. Not a scandal, not a controversy, not a carefully manufactured persona finally falling apart under scrutiny. Just a man who decided to be genuinely good at something, and genuinely good to people, and quietly built something extraordinary out of both. Somewhere in Florida, there's a lawn that doesn't know yet what's coming, and for whoever lives behind it, Tuesday is about to get a whole lot better.